It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege of interviewing the Dickinson's head coach for field hockey, Coach Jenn Hanks. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in coaching in college field hockey?
Sure. I was a Division III college athlete myself. I played at Skidmore College in upstate New York. I personally experienced the college, the student athlete experience. And so it was around my senior year, going into my spring semester. And I kind of had this moment that I knew that I didn't want to lose the sport that I had committed so much of my life to. Being a part of it was something that I held really, really near and dear to my heart. And so just chatting with some close people that, my family, my friends, my coach that I had in college was, what steps could I take that could involve me in the sport going forward. Had an opportunity to interview for an assistant position. I would say it was like 2-3 months after I graduated from college. And it just all kind of worked out. And we had a connection from a way back of, local experience. She was from the same area I was. So we had all these connections, but Missy Mariano, who was, she took a big leap of faith, someone that coming out of college and experiencing it. So really it was that I had such fond memories of it, that to imagine my life without such a wonderful sport that I, played, competed, coached, watched, for so many hours of the day. I couldn't imagine my life without it.
What was your experience like going to Skidmore College and getting to compete in field hockey?
Yeah. It was one of the best experience of my life. I think we were a team that constantly was challenging one another. I played amongst some of the best. I had some of the best coaches, some of the smartest, individuals that, I really am so proud to call teammates. But really what it was is that we were constantly, fighting to get better. We competed in the Liberty League. So once again, another competitive conference from an athletic and an academic standpoint. So you knew that when you were going up against those competitors, that you were battling for something really, really great. And so we had such the fortune of, over my time, winning a conference championship multiple times, going to the NCAA tournament. I competed in a Final Four. So to be able to say that I played in a Final Four and have coached in a Final Four, I think that to me really it was the cherry on top of some really, really great experiences. Being able to kind of balance, what I academically wanted to accomplish, as well as what I could accomplish on the field, I think was perfect for me.
As a player, what was that experience like getting to compete in that Final Four?
Oh my gosh, I think I honestly I think I blacked out the experience slightly. I think it was such a remarkable experience because we were battling against, nowadays, Middlebury really has held some really, really a tight grasp upon, the sport. And so I, fondly remember, actually it was more leading up to going to the Final Four. We were at Middlebury for our regional, and we beat them. And it was probably one of the biggest excitements of my day. The winning aspect of getting there, the work that you put in, really culminating with that victory to go to Virginia Beach to play in the Final Four was absolutely astounding. In that same year, and what I love about field hockey so much is they try very hard to bring together the three divisions. Every few years to have their Final Four together, and that was one of those years. So our banquet, our Final Four banquet, was amongst 12 teams that were at the very top of their game. And so the respect that was in that room was just something absolutely astounding. We, played a really great game against Salisbury. It was a tight game. It was the culmination, like I said, of some really talented players peaking at the exact time that we needed to. And I cherished that moment in time. And it was also after I had come back from tearing my ACL my freshman year, at the conclusion of my freshman year season. And so the work that I had put in prior to that sophomore year to get to the Final Four in that year was just like, it was all like, you did all this, look at it. And I never like to say for a player if they, have an injury of that nature, but I'm like, look, you can do it. You can come back stronger than ever. And I had the fortune of going to the highest of, levels for field hockey. So really, really special.
Coming out of college, what was that experience like getting to become an assistant coach for Franklin and Marshall College?
It was amazing. I think first and foremost, I have to give credit to the head coach that I worked under in my first season, Missy Mariano, who is now at Hamilton College, another great institution. She was just such a great mentor to me in terms of providing me with some really great tools to putting myself in a position where I was understood and seen as the coach, as opposed to, when you come out of college and are in a space where you are very close in age with many of the athletes that are playing on the field. I actually had an athlete on that first team that I coached at F&M who was older than I was. She was almost 23 and I was 21, going to be 22, and she had already turned 22. And so it was in that moment that I really have such a level of respect for the coach that I worked for, because she was like, no, you're Coach Jenn. It will always be that going forward. And I have taken that every single place I've gone since then, is really being able to distinguish that I have nothing but the utmost respect for all of the players that I, work with. But there definitely has to be that relationship that you see them as, we're not buddy in that regard. We care dearly about the athletes that we work with. And so I think that really set myself on a pathway of success in creating those relationships, of being able to understand and build the connections, but being also understanding of kind of the line at which you have to draw. And I think that as I've gotten older, it has become easier, because you have a generational gap, you have an age gap, you have all these things that are starting to pull you away, but you still have to continue to maintain those relationships. So I give a lot of credit to, the coach that I worked for, because she really provided me with some great insight, some great support, some great navigational, tools that I've utilized to this day.
Of course, while at Franklin and Marshall, what was that experience like helping guiding them to the NCAA tournament?
Oh my gosh, it was a crazy situation. So after my first year, and this I think really ties into actually that Final Four run that we had. So I first was hired under Missy Mariano. She ended up departing and getting the head coaching job at Hamilton. And actually her previous assistant, Caitlin Ager, who is still now the head coach at Franklin and Marshall, she was actually hired as the assistant. And the talks that we had prior to, in terms of myself with actually the athletic director, was kind of the question of, well, are you looking to get this job? And I was like, no, like I am not at that space. So I think for me, there was a self-awareness of, I still had a lot to learn, and I wanted to be in a space where I could learn under some great leadership. And so there was a coaching change within that time frame, between like January and July. There was a coaching change. And so it was a really wild experience. It was, being able to quickly kind of see little differences in the coaching, but Caitlin also learned under Missy as well. So I think we all were very connected and interconnected in terms of the focus points that we brought to the team. Little subtle changes, but I think it really ramped up the intensity of the team. We had some phenomenal athletes on that team. So I think at the very end of the day, they knew what they were capable of. They you know, I would say peaked at the right time. We hit various strides and barriers that we had to overcome. So I think it was a mixture of some really great leadership from the seniors and the classes below, as well as just some really great hockey being played. So once again, another phenomenal experience. That whole story of kind of us getting to where the Final Four was funny as well. It was once again a year that all the teams came together. For all three divisions. And it was actually in Louisville, Kentucky. And it was a mixture of many teams wanting the same exact flight from Baltimore specifically to Louisville. And so they ended up, the NCAA chartered a plane for our Franklin and Marshall, Messiah, Millersville, and the University of Maryland. And so we all took a flight there together. And it was such a wild experience. And I think we had our banquet at Churchill Downs. So it's like the experience, that those memories, I think, you know, are so strong that it bonded that group together. Another, you know, wild experience, that my younger sister also played field hockey. She played at University of Maryland, and we were on the plane together, which was like one of those crazy things, like you giggle at when you think, you're like, oh my gosh, how is this possible that I'm living this right now? But at the very end of the day, it was a lot of hard work, a lot of commitment, and really understanding that, you know, everyone was there with the same purpose in mind.
How was that transition like, going from Franklin and Marshall College to then going to Stevens Technology to become the assistant coach?
Yeah, it was definitely a transition. It was definitely, you know, a great opportunity. You know, within the world of Division III, it can be challenging at times because there's a lot of, you know, restrictions when it comes to budget and stuff like that. So while I was at F&M, I was actually only a part-time assistant. So I had multiple other jobs that kind of, you know, helped with the finances and all that. You have to, as many say, you gotta grind out, you know, certain aspects, because many of us don't get into college athletics for the money. So I think that, you know, the opportunity you know, presented itself that I could apply for this really great opportunity. And I had kind of actually had previous a connection with the coach there. So being able to build on that relationship, it was, you know, just a great experience that I could be in the office full time with this coach and this team, you know, amongst some really phenomenal student athletes. Very, very different, but I think with the intent of becoming potentially a head coach and wanting to become a head coach at that point in time, learning from different environments I thought was key to being able to build my full understanding of all different types of student athletes, understanding how to connect with such a range of athletes, of students, of mindsets, how to build in, you know, the connecting pieces that would bring a team together. So I was really fortunate to work amongst, once again, another great mentor to me, Meredith Spencer-Blates, who has really built that program to such great heights. Being able to go to a NCAA tournament, you know, through that, you know, was once again an awesome, you know, build culmination of a lot of hard work, and they've had a successful, you know, continuation since I've left. So really proud of to see the success that they've had.
What were some of the things that you took along your way and learned as assistant coaches to help you to make that jump to become a head coach and come to Dickinson?
I think, you know, at the very core of it, you know, I think it's just being as real as possible and being able to recognize, you know, your strengths as a person and how to best support the people around you. I've had a really great opportunity to work, like I said, under some really great mentors to me. But at the very end of the day, being authentically yourself, that to not temper that, you know, to not be like, oh, I have to be someone different, you know, in different environments. So that really, I think I learned that probably the most from Meredith at Stevens. You know, she was just like, no, like, you want to be you, like that's why you're here, that's why you're a part of this program, is because we want you, and not, you know, some variation. And so I think that, you know, being able to see that really pushed me to lean into those areas of, what I love the best, understanding the tactical balance that I'm looking for in a team, and being able to build, the respect and the culture that, we're looking for in terms of what this team really connects and bonds with each other on. So I think throughout my time as an assistant, I've seen the head coaches really connect in terms of bringing in key athletes that really will buy into the players that are currently in the program. And so that has been something I've seen and recognized, and I've taken with me every place, as well as taken it to Dickinson.
How is that feeling like the first time you got to step onto the field as a head coach?
Oh my goodness, it was terrifying. No, it was a very exciting, just whirlwind of an experience. I had some really great assistants that I worked alongside of, that supported me through that. We had like a dance party outside of the locker room before I walked in to give, that first speech before we headed out onto the field. I was like, I have to get all my jitters and energy out. It was a little bit surreal because I was going up, we played Messiah as our opening game. And so, I have nothing but the utmost respect for Brooke Good, who's the head coach at Messiah. And it was such an amazing experience to compete against a team that I have a lot of respect for. But for us to be able to compete really well against them, I think that felt even better. It was a challenging game that we played against. And so I think that the jitters leading up to it, by the time we stepped onto the field, I was like, well, here goes, it's nothing but the clock against us at this point. So I think we learned a great deal from that game, but I think it was more for me, the leading up was probably most nerve-wracking, but by the time I walked onto the field, I didn't even think about it, because it was too far gone at that point to change anything.
Of course, for you, what was that feeling like getting to step onto the field as a head coach versus your previous times getting to step on as assistant coach and even as a player?
It was interesting. I couldn't even really tell you if it felt different or if it felt like it was like imposter syndrome a little bit. I think the key thing that I really wanted to remain was, like I said, authentically myself, which was, I, love the sport of hockey. I wanted, the keys of our success to shine through as a team. And so I think the little differences was, making more sense of the subbing that I was planning to do, or different corners that we were going to be playing, or, making those adjustments between our breaks between second, third, halftime, all that kind of stuff. So like, I did pull from my experience of being an assistant coach in those situations, because, it was key to have very distinct, like points of emphasis that we wanted to do instead of just going on tangents. I was like, here are the things that we got to work on. And so I definitely pulled from, being a part of those meetings, as an assistant coach, and how I would like to structure my my kind of head coaching conversation. But I think at the very end of it, it was just, we had a job to do, and I didn't really think of it in any way different. Just more so had a little bit more responsibility to take into consideration.
As a head coach, what is it like getting to build the coaching staff around you, but not just that, but also the players around you?
I think that it's been a really eye-opening experience in a lot of ways, because I think just in the change of the student athlete nowadays, and the people that we are, I think specifically I've seen such a bigger change since truly COVID, because people are really just much more wanting the relationships and the conversation and the continued support from people. I think we had such a long time where that really kind of disrupted a lot of things. And so for me, I really just want to really show to both the assistant coaches that, I work alongside of, the players that, every effort that I am doing is with the intent for your success. Nothing is meant with, sometimes the decisions are hard. Sometimes they're not, maybe, the most, they're not as well received as you'd hope, but sometimes that hindsight might be 2020 look back at those situations. So I think it's a balance of making sure that there's that respect piece. And it's actually funny, we just had a team meeting last night, and sometimes bringing back in those core values that we hold, respect being one of them, because I think at the very end of the day, we all know that the reason that we're here is because we love the sport, we love the people that are a part of this team, and then we want, the future to be really bright for us. And so being able to respect that everyone is trying their absolute hardest, I think that we have to really, really show the respect in those moments, because we all have so much going on, that's being able to boil it down. At the very core of it, we love hockey, and we love the connection that we have with each other.
As a head coach, can you talk about the culture that you started to build for the program?
Absolutely. I think, I think for me, there's a few things that really, probably outshine in terms of one, being able to build that culture around, the priorities of a person. And first and foremost, it's always going to be their health, their well-being, their family. That definitely always going to be first. And I know that it's amongst a student athlete kind of dynamic, or kind of breakdown right now, that they have a lot going on in their minds right now. So taking the time to make sure that they're checking in with themselves, their team, their teammates, their family, like those things are really, really critical, because at the very end of it, we are playing Division III field hockey. The opportunities to go and play on in a national capacity, not high, but we still aspire to do it. So really at the end of it, we want to make sure that they're in a good headspace moving forward. We want field hockey to be one of the best parts of their day. And so second to that is, their academics, they're setting themselves up for success. We, at Dickinson have some of the brightest, some of the most passionate, some of those determined people in their academics. And so that always comes second. And honestly, field hockey is like, if academics are 2A, field hockey is 2B, like it's coming right behind it. And we recognize that at different points in the year, it's going to be, pushing, forward a little bit, and then it's taking a step off the gas pedal at other times. But at the very core of it, our values really hold in terms of the respect, the commitment, the selflessness that they hold, and really the resilience of challenge that's set ahead of them. So I think being able to build those into their daily lives, if they encounter those things, we know that is being presented in a way that they're building not only good habits as humans, but then making sure that they're building good habits as teammates. And really they have nothing but the utmost love for each other and for each other's well-being. So that to me is nothing is more important than that, because they're, thinking back to kind of maybe even all the stories that I've said, sometimes it's not even the field hockey that really sticks out in their brain, in terms of my experience from playing and coaching. Like it's not on-field stuff sometimes that you remember, it's all the off-field stuff. It's those little things, the laughs that you had, the dance parties, all those types of things. And so I want that to be a part of the culture in which they really have, built such great relationships with each other, that's what sticks out to them in the culture.
Who are some of the teams in your conference that you compete against each week?
So we're a part of the Centennial Conference, which is for field hockey. It's a group of 11 schools. So we play 10 conference games, and I would, put our conference, definitely at some of the highest field hockey within Division III. We play the likes of Haverford College, Swarthmore, Franklin and Marshall, Ursinus. If I can name them all, I'll feel really, really proud. McDaniel, Bryn Mawr, Johns Hopkins, Gettysburg, Muhlenberg. I think that's everyone. I think I got it. Yeah. Okay. I think I got them all. Washington College. Okay, whew, got him. So yeah, so we play against some really top level field hockey and academics, and so I think our conference does an excellent job showcasing, all of that these student athletes do, and it's really, intertwined and built into the culture of both the institutions as individuals, but then also across kind of college lines, I guess you'd say.
What is that home game atmosphere like when teams like John Hopkins come to home versus going away to John Hopkins and playing them away?
Yeah, no, it's very interesting because we have, we have a great atmosphere here at Dickinson, and specifically what's awesome for us is where our kind of athletic facilities are. I almost call it like athlete village. We have a number of kind of athlete sports specific training facilities. So we have like our football field and women's lacrosse field, along with our track. We have our tennis courts. Our varsity weight room is also kind of in that same space. So what's awesome is that we are in a spot where we have so many people walking past, and so we grab kind of the intensity of those people as they come by and stop. Some of our best games, I really think about actually our opening game this past year, when Messiah came, and we had the likes of what felt like a lot of football players, we had lacrosse players, baseball players, we had softball, ball, we had just some really great support from other student athletes coming and standing with us, a great parent atmosphere. And what's awesome is that our field, you really can be in a part of the action, and you don't have a track around it or anything that kind of prohibits you, and so you really feel like you're amongst the crowd. So it's always a fun day when we have a home game.
Of course, what are some of the game day traditions that you have implemented on home games?
I think the key one that sticks out to me in that scenario is making sure that you're walking on and off the field as a team. I think that's really key. So they walk on as a unit, two lines walking in, and for me, what's most important is that you're in that united front in terms of everyone's together in this battle, if you'd like to say, or challenge that you're up against. But then the key is that no matter what the result is, and we've played some amazing games, and we've come up short, but we've also won some games that have just felt so amazing, whether it's in overtime or last minute, goals. And the key is for me is that we all walk off the field as a team. So you're coming on as you go off. So two lines, every single person is walking off together. Goalies aren't, straggling behind as they take their gear off. Everyone walks together. And I think that really distinguishes them as connected with each other, in terms of you're in the same mindset. As you depart the field. So that's something that I've implemented because I think that it really does showcase both a literal as well as, like kind of figurative thought process of everyone's in it together.
During your time at Dickerson, what have been some of your accomplishments as a head coach?
Well, so I would say honestly, this year has been probably one of the greatest, in terms of kind of being my second year. We had some tough battles my first year, and we came up short of making our playoffs for our conference last year. I think we went like 3-7 in the conference, or maybe it was 4-6 last year. So that was 2022. And after that season, we had some really interesting conversations about particular games that we were battling and that we came up short, and how if we flipped those games into wins, 1-goal victories, 1-goal losses, whatever, if it was a 1-goal loss, we're making it a victory this year. And many of those games that really was catapulted us to the success that we had this year. So we ended up 6-4 in our conference, playing some really fantastic hockey going into the end of October. And so it put us at 4th in our conference. The Centennial Conference has kind of altered their playoff structure in the last few years. And so we had the opportunity to host a playoff game for the first time in like over 10 years. So I think that was just truly amazing. And for the athletes, we had a little board in our locker room where, they had all 10 conference games but every single game was covered up with, next game. And until we were playing that game, we did not worry about the next opponent. And so I think that was probably some of the coolest, memory to think about, because it was really that they thought about each game as a singular game and not, we have to get to this, because you have to be able to go day to day, the work rate that you put in, to make the difference.
What does the recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes looking to play college field hockey?
I think it's tough in a little bit of a way, because I think it's very different based on kind of some particular areas that you're maybe connected with. If field hockey is the main priority of the conversation versus if there's an academic expectation, we also have to take into account, financial, aspects to someone's recruitment process. But the key thing for me is, there's a couple things that it boils down to, your hockey level, you as a person, your personality, your energy, what kind of your aspirations are, in the coming couple of years, and just an overall energy behind you, like I said. So I think the key thing is being as upfront as possible, as transparent as possible, being able to come to the campus and see yourself, and envisioning yourself a part of this campus. Every campus is different. I think that is really a key, to the success of a college search. I really put, at least my college search process, and my younger sister who also played college field hockey, I put a lot of love and support behind our parents, because they really instilled in us in making the decision for you, for the person that you are, not in comparison to your teammates in high school, or in a club setting. I know a lot of people believe, the only level to play at is D1. And for some people that opportunity, that if it presents itself, is a great opportunity for you. But at some point, there's different, there's different value scales, there's different areas that maybe people want to explore. And I think that for someone to really have a good look in the mirror, a hard look in the mirror, and knowing what they want, and what's best for them and their family, I think that to me, at the very core of it, is what it boils down to.
Of course, what does that official visit look like at Dickinson when the student athletes come to visit the campus?
Well, it's kind of funny. So when we do them, I actually tell the prospective student, as well as my assistant coach, we really actually love to just like not be present in the day, because when you think about it, particularly when they're in the off season, like I might not see any of my athletes today. And so as coaches, I really like to remove myself from the process of a visit day. I want them to be fully immersed in Dickinson field hockey and what it feels like to be a student athlete, on this campus. So that to me is what I try and replicate it as. So, they're coming in, we're meeting them, we're meeting, their kind of, what's the word? Their representative for the day, my kind of the student that they're going to be shadowing, the shadow for their day. And then we send them off. Like, I'm not going to see them until the very end of the day. They are going to classes. We'll put a team lunch together so that our team comes together, answers questions for them. They can kind of see how our team is, kind of vibing with each other, being able to kind of see a dorm, going back to class. If, there's a workout that might be, that the athletes are doing, they're going to that, really being able to see what it feels like to be a student. And then we'll kind of come in at the end of the day and show them different, little tour aspects that we want to make sure that they see. But as much as possible, I like to remove myself from it, because they are spending 70-80% of their time without the coaches. And so we want to try and make their visit as great of a representation of what that would look like. So it's funny. So you'd think that it's going to be all about like, I'm like showing them all these things. I actually remove myself quite a lot from the official visit.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing your freshmen put on the red jersey for the first time versus your seniors putting it on for the last time?
Oh my goodness, that's a tearjerker, actually. I think The first year experience is, I think, something just so special because they've really worked so greatly to get themselves to this point, and they think that this is the height of what they, have worked for. But in fact, it's just the reset and the restart of another 4 years of hard work that they're about to encounter. I think that we had a really great group of first years this year. We have 7 of them, really just a fantastic energy, such a high level of hockey. And they really wanted, a lot to, they had a lot of high expectations, which I think that they set for themselves. And I think they did an excellent job of achieving a lot of it. When they put it on as a senior, I think what's so interesting and fascinating to me is that for many of them, like, they might not touch a hockey stick after the end of their career. Like, they might play a little pickup here and there, but it's one of those sports that, it's not like a 1v1 basketball where you just pick up a basketball. Like, there is a certain amount that you need the environment of an 11v11 to really feel that that energy again. And so I think for me, I've obviously, this was my second year, so I've seen this particular senior class for 2 seasons. They didn't have a COVID, because of COVID, they didn't have their first year experience, and so they really only had 3 seasons. And so I think it was in many ways, it was almost all like jammed together, as opposed to kind of spread out over 4 years. It was very compact, very they had that finite amount of time for success. And so I think for me to see it was kind of like, oh my gosh, they've done it. They've done a great amount of work to get where they are.
What is it like as a head coach getting to see them achieve those milestones, whether it be the first win or first career point versus the last career point in their collegiate career?
I think it's always really interesting because I think when the practices become so competitive that it becomes just like natural to them. I think that when they get those points regularly, it feels like they're on this building phase of, oh, I've started this challenge that I'm putting myself up against, and what can I do to keep and continue to go forward. So when they score that first point, there's I think a slight amount of relief. There's oh, thank goodness it happened. But also I think then it kind of ignites that fire of, oh my gosh, I did all that work. And when it happened, whatever it might have been in terms of the success, that they want to go back for more. Like when a player scores their first goal, like, well, I want to do it again. I'm like, okay, well, look at all that you had to do to get there. Oh, you got to do it like 10 times now to continue it. So when it happens for the last time, I think I don't actually maybe think about that last moment as much, because I think there is so much to accomplish that I really would rather, and I think we try and keep the main focus on the team and in terms of what the team needs in terms of this team success. And so I really can't speak to, that last point. I think I did think a little bit about in our playoff game, some of our seniors in terms of like their last minutes. But that wasn't, I think that was more just from a time and a moment of reflection, in that all that they had worked for had really been pushed to the very brink of what they could do, and they did an excellent job.
What are some of your future plans as the head coach moving forward?
What's interesting is that I feel that there's always an amazing opportunity after a season concludes, because you get time to really reflect. And so our season ended, beginning of November. And so right now I feel like this couple months has really been or month, we're not even through like halfway of December. These couple months have really been such a great space to really reflect in terms of what did we do? How did we do it? In terms of whether it was day-to-day, larger scale things, and assessing, is it the right way to do it? And do we need to make changes? And so is it, for example, leadership structure, if it's, practice planning, is it how long we're practicing, our strength and conditioning? So I think for me, being that it's only been my second season, I'm still in this part of, and I feel like many coaches, whether on their first season or in their like 100 seasons, whatever it might be, there's always going to be a period of reassessment in terms of, did it work? And if it did work, great, but did it work to its fullest efficiency? And so right now for me, that's my plan for the future, is continuing to think critically about all the things we did, and was it the best for this program to have success? And so we have a great opportunity because we get a non-traditional season, in 2024 in that spring semester. So we get to kind of do a trial and error during that moment, in preparation for our traditional season in the fall.
What advice would you give those incoming freshmen entering their first year of college field hockey?
Oh goodness. Commit to the summer workout packet to your very, very your best ability. I think it's playing and continuing to play. Your season may conclude in the fall for a high school senior, but there's many months between when you finish that and you go off to college, and you want to make sure that your skills stay razor sharp, and that you're at a really good fitness level, building the relationships with the people that you're going to be joining. I feel like many coaches, as well as we do, building the connections between the incoming to kind of having that buddy system. So being able to have the opportunity to connect, I think that's the key. So fitness, field hockey, and making sure you're having a little fun while you're at it.
What advice do you give those seniors out there that are looking to play professional field hockey and represent a national team like US or Canada?
I think that I think that there is a need for them to really understand the work that is needed to have success in the national and international spaces. I think we as a sport in the United States, we always are in a challenging position because we don't have a professional league. So it very much hinders our continued improvement after college. Whereas, for example, in Europe, there's professional leagues, so that even when you're in your late 20s, 30s, like they're still playing competitively, and not just at a stage. So if there's an opportunity to go and play in those spaces, definitely would recommend it. But I think that really being able to buckle down and see the work that has to be put in, and making sure at the very end of the day that you are doing what you love to do, because that really, I think, showcases you can just tell, as with everything in life, when you are fully passionate about something, that you would put everything you could into something to see the success of it. And I think that holds true when you want to go off and play in a professional setting. You really, really have to know that you love it with your heart and your soul, because like that will carry you forward through the tough moments, because there are going to be tough moments. So I would definitely say that.
What advice would you give those players out there that are looking to get into coaching after their playing career?
Oh goodness, that's a good question. I would say it's being able to maybe find that mentor that really, really helps and supports you. I had, like I said, the absolute great fortune to have some really great mentors. Just, I don't want to say I was plopped in their laps, but I really, had a chance to build some really strong connections with some really great people, and utilize them as a great support to me. Whether that's your own personal college coach, club coach, high school coach, anyone that you have that could be a great resource to you of how to kind of build that resume of coaching opportunities. So coaching clubs, clinics, many times for camps over the summer, they're looking for college students, high school students to be involved for, whether it's counselors or leaders, anything like that. Those moments really actually put you in a great opportunity space to learn how are we structuring things, and how are we building, some of the drill ideas. So I think it's just putting yourself into clubs and spaces that field hockey's playing.
What advice would you give those coaches out there that are looking to become head coaches one day and running their own field hockey program?
Um, it's so, I mean, it's really taking all of the information that every team that you are a part of and being able to mold it into your own. And so I still utilize templates from my assistant coaching years because they work and I really like what they do in terms of the systems that were in place in um, uh, different coaching institutions that I've been at. So I think being able to just really like, on your email, like keeping all of those types of things, of course, with the agreement of the coaches that you work for, that you can kind of beg, borrow, and steal for them. But I think it's being able to just take in all that information and whether it's jotting it down in a notebook or being able to recognize the little things that could really benefit you and your style. I think that's the key. There's certain things that I recall being like, oh, that wasn't exactly how I would have maybe done something. You're obviously in spaces as an assistant coach where you fully support the coach on different situations on the field 100%, being able to have those good conversations in an office setting, but always keeping that mental note of little changes that maybe would fit your style better. That's the end of the day. It's making sure that it fits your style. Coaching wise, culture wise, what are you trying to build? Does it fit for you?
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the program at?
So we're at Dickinson Field Hockey. So that's for the program, which is amazing. So that's all of our field hockey stuff. Anything Dickinson related, Dickinson Athletics, does a great job, showcasing us. I think that we really, what we love the most about our social media is that we try and keep it as much on the players as possible and their successes and all the things that they do. So check us out on Instagram, Facebook, X now, all that kind of stuff. So
Thank you again, Coach Jenn Hanks, for your interview, and best luck in your future with Dickinson as the head coach for field hockey.
thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Jenn Hanks, for your interview. Best luck in your future.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.